What's up, guys? My name is Elias, and The Mandalorian and Grogu officially drops in theaters this week. So it's time to watch, review, and rank every Star Wars movie. Kicking off our watch list is none other than the one that started it all, 1977's
Star Wars.
acting as the technical fourth episode in the Skywalker saga, though episode didn't become a thing until 1981 after the sequel actually came out. Star Wars grossed $410 million on an $11 million budget, with merchandising alone profiting 20th Century Fox, now 20th Century Studios, an additional $300 million, which at the time was basically unheard of. Fresh off its financial success, Star Wars became a smash hit that not only revolutionized cinema, but essentially became the center of pop culture and basically remains so nearly 50 years later. Creator, producer, writer, and director George Lucas took inspiration from filmmaker Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo and Seven Samurai and several other westerns that are clearly embedded in the IP's DNA. Lucas reluctantly took the reins of the would-be franchise at first, but refused to do so again until the prequel trilogy. This was due to the first one having taken a heavy toll on Lucas's health, as he was riddled with stress amongst hostile working conditions, with the British crew disliking him and making his job that much harder in a plethora of ways, but nonetheless he powered through. Star Wars, for me, is a movie that transcends imagination and allows you to just be completely immersed in this galaxy far, far away. And it's filled with bounty hunters, giant monsters, telekinetic swordsmen, and I mean, you get the idea. I just can't even imagine how it must have felt watching this thing in the theaters for the first time. Just pure awe and wonder. A big aspect I love about the OG trilogy of Star Wars is its efficient use of practical effects over CGI, which is something the sequel trilogy kind of relied way too heavily on. The world just feels tangible. From the elaborate sets to the usage of miniatures to convey larger than life battleships, the alien makeup. I mean, it's a fantastical universe that's just so visually impressive, with everything looking as though you can reach into the screen and just touch it. The storyline here is a bunch of sci-fi gibberish told through some rather clunky dialogue, but there's a rich history and lore that leaps off of the page that only keeps you engaged and interested in the grand scheme of things. And there are dozens of novels and thousands of comics you could read to dive further into it if you really want to, but even just based off the movies, there's just so much to dissect, with connections interwoven throughout the entire Skywalker saga. But perhaps the film's biggest strength is in its cast. True, Mark Hamill was a relative unknown, Carrie Fisher was a Nepo baby, and Harrison Ford was just a scene reader. But somehow the stars aligned, and it allowed them to really form one of the most iconic trios in Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa, and Han Solo. From the outset, Luke is a whiny junker who groans when he can't go out looking for catalytic converters. Leia is this headstrong yet youthfully reckless rebel leader. And Han is just a swashbuckling smuggler who, yes, shot that guy in the tavern first. End the debate. But along their journey to destroy the Death Star, they form this bond that basically proves their chemistry together was just a lightning in a bottle. Not to mention the myriad of iconic characters that the franchise spawned, like Chewbacca, R2-D2, C3PO, and of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. Now, the towering Vader was played by 6'6" bodybuilder David Prowse, whose goofy delivery of his lines got him dubbed over by James Earl Jones, which is, his voice is now synonymous with the Sith Lord. Alec Guinness, on the other hand, infamously hated filming Star Wars, thinking it was just a bunch of childish nonsense that was beneath him, and still he managed to churn out an outstanding performance as the reclusive Obi-Wan Kenobi. I will admit that perhaps my biggest complaint of this movie has to do with the final battle between the two powerhouses. I get this was the 70s, and I get that they didn't have a definitive choreography for lightsaber duels, but it just looks like two old dudes twiddling their wands around trying to slash one another, just very slowly. Not only is the sound design for the film amazing, with and becoming immediately recognizable in the aftermath of the film's release, but John Williams' iconic score simply cannot be beat. I mean, the man's done Star Wars, Superman, Indiana Jones, Jaws, and Jurassic Park. What else can you expect from a composer of that caliber? Real quick though, before I give my final thoughts, if you want to know my official rating of the movie, click on the link in the description below to check out my letterbox at Takes with Eli, along with my other socials where I post stuff like this all the time. But let's get back to it. Overall, though I have little to no nostalgia for the first one, and I unfortunately find it to be a little more flawed than some diehard fans might, I can't help but appreciate just how much Star Wars has done for movies as a whole and how far it's come with every medium it's conquered, whether it be animation, television, video games, and the list goes on and on. Star Wars is simply one of those movies that borderlines on blasphemy if someone hasn't seen it yet. You just can't go through life without knowing what a lightsaber is, or without hearing "May the Force be with you," or without trying to use the Force yourself. Yeah, it doesn't work. It's simply become part of the lexicon of just society as we know it, and for that, Star Wars deserves all of its flowers. But that's it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button and get in my comments with your thoughts on 1977 Star Wars, as well as which Star Wars movie you're excited for me to talk about next. But until then, take care and God bless.